Okay, it's time for a little fun. Recently, the state of Connecticut wanted to do an exercise, and the exercise they wanted to do was they wanted to look at what would happen if the worst hurricane in recent record struck Connecticut today. And so they looked at the hurricanes, and there was a really bad one in 1896, but 1938 was probably the better one to look at because we had a lot of data on that. So let's have a little fun. Let's say that 38 hurricane hits Connecticut today, and let's look at the types of debris and the volume. Watch the numbers. So the history of storms in New England demonstrate that the West Indies hurricanes will be placed in the to be expected class, so that we know we're going to get some, and they come in periodically. If we look at hurricane history, we see that there have been many hurricanes. If we look at them striking New England, and these are the hurricanes from 1886 to 2006 when we really wanted to look at this. And if you look at path number 4 right here, if you look at path number 4, this is the 38 hurricane right here. Now it's interesting, we had Sandy struck a number of years ago and came up and got right about here and took a left right into New Jersey this way and continued over to Pennsylvania. But let's talk about this one, number 4, and see how it has. So the catastrophic impact of a strong Category 3 hurricane on Connecticut and New England, and we think that's about the strongest that we could receive here in New England. So the winds associated with a Category 3 hurricane, what would they look like? Early on, when the eye, this is the eye of the storm, was off the coast, you'll notice that we're going to start getting this counterclockwise circulation, which they have. And I also want to point something out about a hurricane. I would say the eastern side of the storm is the side to watch. For some reason, as they come up the New England coast, the eastern side is always the strongest side. All of our rain will be on the side, most of our damage will be on this side, and when we get to the western side, we'll notice that the winds diminish dramatically. So if we look at the winds for a Category 3, they're going to be 130 to 150 miles an hour, and that's with the storm about 100 miles off the coast. If we look a little bit further, where the 110, 130 miles an hour are going to go. So this is the state of Connecticut. The University of New Haven is right about here, right in this area. So you'll see that University of New Haven campus would be hit dramatically, and if we looked at the Category 1, we'll see that they're 90 to 110 miles an hour all the way up past Boston, even though the storm is 100 miles off the coast of New England. And so we go to 70 to 90 miles an hour. We would see those winds acting all the way up in Maine. And you notice there's a very unique anomaly up here, and we always see the winds drop down and then pick up again in here, and we think it's because of the topography of the land there that we see that change. So again, Category 3 winds all the way up into northern New Hampshire, northern Vermont. They'd be 50 to 70 miles an hour, and the hurricane is still 100 miles off the coast. So what would happen if a 38 hurricane struck today? Same path. We think that we would begin looking at, we have Groton, we have Old Saybrook, we have Bridgeport and Stamford, and here's New Haven, and right about here is the University of New Haven, right in this area, in the West Haven area. So the winds in the Sound are going to push the water into the Sound, and you notice that the Long Island Sound is a nice catchment area, so the winds are going to push in, and the water is going to rise very quickly on the other end of the Sound. And of course, a lot of it has to do with if it strikes at low tide or high tide, but the winds would be 80 to 110 miles an hour on the side, and we think that it would raise the water dramatically on the western end of the Sound. The wind would continue to rise as the storm got closer, 130 to 150 miles an hour. It would put more water into the Sound. And what we've actually done here is we've actually taken almost every community, or every community along the state of our shoreline, the state of Connecticut shoreline. We've made these maps, flood inundation maps. And this is the city of Fairfield. And what you see is, you'll notice here, this area is, the darker blue is a Category 1 and 2 hurricane, and the lighter blue is a Category 3 hurricane. So each town has these, and they now know exactly the streets that are going to flood when there's a problem in their area, or a hurricane is coming, and they say it's a Category 3. They can look at these maps and know exactly where their town is going to be flooded. This is Westport, Connecticut. In '92, we had a major flood, or nor'easter, that arrived at high tide and easily pushing water over walls in the area. So we look at it, 38 hurricane wind gusts. We could see that we have wind gusts in this area, 130 to 150 miles an hour. You know, these the next 8 areas, 111 to 130 miles an hour winds, 98 to 110, and then 74 to 98, and then finally 60 to 70, and then there's really nothing that can predict what we're going to see outside of that area. But again, University of New Haven is right here, and we would be in that 130 to 180, 150 mile an hour winds. That would be extremely dangerous for the university and for the people that live around it. Maximum projected peak gust will be 151 miles an hour on Long Island. Maximum projected sustained winds, 119 miles, again, on Long Island, because that's what's going to be out in front. So direct economic losses to buildings. These are buildings that would be damaged. And here's Connecticut. And we would estimate that we would have approximately $35 million in damage losses. And then we'd have another, I don't know, maybe $6,000 or $6 billion in business interruption losses. And this would be if a Category 3 hurricane hit the state of Connecticut. So damages to New England the day after, I-95 in New Haven would probably be above water on the bridge, but all around it would be underwater. Long Wharf in New Haven, where I-95 travels, would be underwater. By the way, this is actually a picture of New Orleans. That's the Superdome right there, and this is I-10 that goes right in that area. Shelter requirements. And there's interesting numbers about shelter. Usually about 30% of the people need shelter, 70% to 85% find it on their own. But in Connecticut, we would need shelter. We're estimating for, displaced household people would be 267,000 households, 681,000 people, and 364,000 would probably need shelter here in the state of Connecticut. Shelter requirements, we do all these surveys. We try to figure out where people can stay. This is not fun, living in a shelter. This poor woman and that child, could you imagine sleeping on those cots? Who knows who's sleeping in the bed next to you, because anybody can come in. When we look at critical facilities, Connecticut has 31 acute care hospitals. On day one, only 3% of Connecticut's critical facilities would be operational. Probably no power, to the state. Maybe the northeast, northwest corner would have power, maybe. And we're saying that the hospitals would be severely damaged. Just across the board, everybody would be scrambling, and only about, as it says here, 3% of critical facilities would be functioning. Along the shorelines, it would be an army of power line companies from all over the Northeast and Canada trying to fix our facilities. We look at the hospitals, and this is the Connecticut projection. Here we are 30 days later, and only 40% of our hospitals are up and running. 40% of hospitals. Maybe there may be all 31 may be running, but functionally they're only 40% functioning between the 31 hospitals, and that's in 30 days. Think about the number of heart attacks we normally have in a day or in a week or in a month, and figure that the only 40% of them, or the hospitals only have the capability of 40% for injuries. It really is staggering. We would be shipping people out of Connecticut into other states to get medical assistance. Building and tree debris, they actually think that Vermont would have more damage for a Category 3 hurricane striking Connecticut, but we estimate that we would have about 40,000 million tons, or 40,000 million tons of debris in Connecticut, and we take that and we say that on top of that about 7 million tons would be building. The majority of it would be trees. People don't realize that Connecticut has a lot of trees. We are well grown with trees. So who cuts that up? We hire people. Manually, the trees have to be cut up and the debris needs to be gotten rid of. Dump truck loads, just to give you an idea, in Connecticut, there'd be 1.9 million dump truck loads of debris that would have to be moved out of the state of Connecticut. And some of that would be put in rail cars, taken to Ohio, taken to other states to be gotten rid of. Connecticut does not have the capability of handling that debris in the state of Connecticut. So, Hurricane Category 3 hits Connecticut, a lot of damage. Now, let's look at some facts from New York City. Some of this is a little bit dated, or it's a little bit timed, but 1.5 million tons of mixed construction debris from 7 buildings that collapsed. 3,000 vehicles were destroyed, dust up to several inches deep, and the GA reports EPA did not have protocols in place to ascertain the extent of dust contamination. Some of the losses: the Pentagon, military art collections, extensive library collections. New York City, Picasso, Liechtenstein, Rodin, Calder, Moro, African burial ground artifacts, Art Deco buildings. The Church of St. Nicholas with relics of St. Nicholas and St. Catherine were destroyed. They found some of it, needed to be cleaned and dust and other materials are worked, used chemically treated sponges to clean historic grave markers, and at the Pentagon they freeze-dried boxes, saving about 99% of the book collection. And they freeze-dried it. They were able to dry it over time, and they saved obviously 99% of the book collection. You need art and historic preservationists on the debris management team to make sure things happen. New York City, on the site debris examination for weapons, ammunition, debris taken to the landfill, spread over a large area for further examination by FBI, searching done by rakes and or by hand. Then they had bucket loaders take it to another area, shaker screens used to find further items, debris stored every piece of debris that was there was sorted 4 to 6 times overall through 1.5 million tons of debris. There's actually an exhibit of some of the collections, and you could see that. And if you haven't had a chance to go to the 911 memorial, you see that there's a lot of debris that was collected and stored to be put into the memorial. So some of the issues: World Trade Center cough, eye, nose, irritating burning, nasal, sinus, phlegm, hoarse throat or throat irritation. Firefighters are already beginning to get sick and passing. And also are the iron workers that were there. So when you begin looking at the issues from 9/11, they are all the issues that we spoke about earlier. So just wanted to have a little bit of fun, look at some what would happen if a hurricane struck Connecticut, a Category 3, and then look at the data from the World Trade Center. So not really nothing you have to be worried about in the unit, but I just thought you'd like to see a comparison of what we think might happen if we got struck today with a hurricane.